Welcome to part 3 of our first topic, Introduction to Semiconductors. In this part, we will talk about intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductors. So what is an intrinsic semiconductor? The definition is very straightforward. A pure semiconductor is called an intrinsic semiconductor. Previously, we have learned how silicon can form a large structure where each silicon atom forms a single bond with 4 of its neighboring silicons. That is a classic example of an intrinsic semiconductor where there are no extra impurities or extra elements added to the structure. So what are the features of an intrinsic semiconductor? At 0 Kelvin temperature, all of the electrons in the outer shell of the silicons are used up to form the bonds. So there are no free electrons that could make the current flow through the structure. At 0 Kelvin temperature, this intrinsic semiconductor behaves exactly like an insulator. But when the temperature is increased beyond 0 Kelvin, some of the electrons may gain enough energy to break away from the bond and become free to move through the structure. So what happens is, whenever an electron gains the sufficient energy to break the bond and become free to flow in the structure, in the atomic level, an electron is actually jumping from valence band to conduction band. So whenever an electron is jumping from valence band to conduction band, an energy equal to the band gap is required, as we have learned previously. So an electron is jumping from valence band to conduction band, and this makes an empty place in the valence band which can accept an electron. This empty place is called hole. So whenever we excite an intrinsic semiconductor, an electron hole pair is generated. This is called electron hole pair generation. One thing to note is that whenever one electron moves from valence band to conduction band, it always leaves a place, an empty place in the valence band, or leaves a hole in the valence band. So electron and hole are generated at an equal rate. So if in a semiconductor 5 electrons are jumping from valence band to conduction band, it also creates 5 holes. That means in a case of intrinsic semiconductor, the electron concentration in the conduction band and the hole concentration in the valence band are always equal. Let's say the electron concentration in the conduction band is N and hole concentration in the valence band is P. N and P are equal, which are also equal to Ni. Ni is denoted as intrinsic carrier concentration. Okay, now let's talk about the structure of an intrinsic semiconductor and electron hole pair generation with this illustration here. We have seen this structure previously. In this structure, each of the orange circles denote a silicon atom, and a single bond between 2 silicon atoms is denoted by 2 lines, where each line corresponds to an electron. So in this huge structure, each of the silicon atoms is bonded with 4 of its neighboring silicon. Whenever we can provide enough energy for the electron to break the bond and move through the structure, then actually electron moves from the valence band to conduction band. Here we can see that there is only one line here. That means another line, or which is actually an electron, has jumped away from this bond. This is denoted with this circle. It is free electron. And whenever the electron is freed from here, a hole is actually created. A hole actually means the shortage of electron, and thus denoted by a positive. Ni is intrinsic carrier concentration. In case of an intrinsic semiconductor, the generated hole or electrons carry the charge. Thus they are called the carriers, and the carrier concentration is denoted by Ni. This chart shows the intrinsic carrier concentration Ni of different materials at 300 Kelvin. As we know that when the temperature of a semiconductor is increased beyond 0 Kelvin, some of the electrons gain the energy to break the bonds and move through the structure freely. Thus some electron and hole are generated. The concentration of electrons and holes are denoted as intrinsic carrier concentration, and the unit is per centimeter cube. That means if the value of Ni for germanium is 2.4 × 10⁻13, that means per centimeter cube there are 2.4 into 10 to the power 13 electron and hole pair at 300 Kelvin. There is a close relation between the band gap and the intrinsic carrier concentration. As we can see, germanium has a band gap of 0.7 electron volt and thus has higher intrinsic carrier concentration, and silicon has a band gap of 1.1 electron volt and has a lower intrinsic carrier concentration than germanium. How can we actually explain that? We know that for breaking a bond, for moving an electron from valence band to conduction band, we actually need to provide an energy equal to the band gap. So the lower the band gap is, the lower energy is required for moving an electron from valence band to conduction band. So with equal energy, as the band gap for germanium is lower, we can carry more electrons from valence band to conduction band compared to silicon. The trend follows. As the band gap is increased in gallium arsenide, silicon carbide, intrinsic carrier concentration Ni also decreases. Let's talk about extrinsic semiconductors and doping process. Previously we have talked about intrinsic semiconductor, where the whole semiconductor structure consists of only semiconductor or silicon atom. But if we add some impurity or some extra element to the structure to increase the conductivity, then this process is called doping, and the doped semiconductor is known as extrinsic semiconductor. Compared to the intrinsic semiconductor, where the conductivity is increased by providing external energy such as heat to create electron hole pair, in the case of extrinsic semiconductor, the conductivity is actually increased by adding some impurity to it. We can add two types of impurities. If we add a group 5 element with the semiconductor structure, then we will get an N-type semiconductor, and if we add group 3 elements as impurities, we will get P-type semiconductor. Let's talk about the N-type semiconductor or doping with group 5 elements first. The general characteristic of any group 5 element is it has 5 electrons in its most outer shell. One example of group 5 element is phosphorus. Let's talk about how we can dope a silicon structure with phosphorus. Here an N-type semiconductor is shown, where a few number of phosphorus atom is added as impurity to this huge silicon structure. In this illustration, each of the orange circle denotes silicon and the red circle here denotes phosphorus. As we know, in a semiconductor structure, each silicon atom forms a single bond with 4 of its neighboring silicon. So in this structure, to continue the formation of the structure, this phosphorus will also create 4 single bonds with 4 of its neighboring silicons. Here you can see in this bond, this red electron belongs to phosphorus and this black electron belongs to this silicon. Thus 4 single bonds are formed here. But the problem is, unlike silicon, phosphorus has 5 electrons in its outermost shell. So after forming 4 single bonds, phosphorus has actually 9 electrons, and we know that the structure with 8 electrons in the outer shell is very stable, and thus this extra electron is loosely bound to the phosphorus nucleus. So it can easily break the bond and become free to move through the structure. As the phosphorus is losing one of its electrons, it becomes a phosphorus ion, and each of the phosphorus in the silicon structure will give up 1 electron. There are free electrons in the structure, but we have to remember that the whole structure is actually neutral, because for each electron there is also a phosphorus ion. So in this case, each of the phosphorus atom added will create an extra electron to the structure. So this phosphorus actually donates an electron to this whole structure, and thus called donor impurity atom. Comparing with the intrinsic semiconductor, where an electron hole pair is generated when extra energy is provided to the structure. So in that case, the concentration of both electron and hole were equal. But in this case, the general process of forming electron hole pair will also take place, but extra amount of electrons will be created due to the addition of donor atoms. So in this case, unlike intrinsic semiconductor, the concentration of electrons and holes will not be equal. Actually, the electron concentration in the structure will be much greater than the hole concentration. That's why in the case of an n-type semiconductor, electron is known as majority carrier and hole is known as minority carrier. Let's say small n is denoted as the electron concentration in the semiconductor, and P is the hole concentration in the structure. Obviously, n will be much greater than P. Another thing to denote here is the electron hole pair generation due to thermal excitation will be very less compared to the electron generated by the donor atoms. So actually ND, here ND, this ND actually denotes the number of electrons created due to donor atoms. So the total electron concentration in the structure will be almost equal to the electron concentration due to donors, because the naturally thermally excited electrons will be very less. On the other hand, if we add group 3 elements such as aluminum or boron to a silicon structure, then it will create a p-type semiconductor. General characteristics of a group 3 element is it has 3 electrons in its outermost shell. So when we add an aluminum to the silicon structure, what happens is, here the silicon structure is shown where boron is added as impurity. Boron has 3 electrons in its outermost shell, which are denoted by red lines here. So 3 of its outermost electrons are used up to form 3 single bonds with 3 adjacent silicon atoms. As to continue the formation of the structure, another bond will be created between this boron and this silicon, but as boron has 3 elements in its outer shell, boron cannot share any more electron with this silicon. So here is a shortage of electron, which is actually a hole. So if we add a group 3 element to a silicon structure as impurity, we are actually creating holes. The function of hole is to accept an electron, thus this boron is called the acceptor atom. And this hole actually does not stay static here, it actually moves to the structure. Let's say here is a bond with 2 electrons shared by 2 of the silicon atoms here. If one electron is somehow generated from this bond and breaks away to move through the structure, it actually gets attracted to this hole here. So this electron fills up this hole and the bond is formed completely, but as the electron is coming from this bond, it creates a hole here. Thus the hole can move through the structure. As we can see, in the case of p-type semiconductor, the concentration of holes will be much larger than the concentration of thermally generated electron holes. So if we consider small p as the hole concentration and small n as electron concentration, then obviously the hole concentration p will be much larger than the electron concentration n. Another thing to note here is total hole concentration in the structure will be equal to the hole created due to the acceptor atom and also hole created due to the thermal agitation. But as we have seen in the group 5 elements, the hole pair generated due to the thermal agitation much less than the hole created due to acceptor atoms. So actually the total hole concentration P is almost equal to the hole concentration due to the acceptor atoms. So that's the end of part 3. Looking forward to meet all of you at the last part of our first topic, part 4. Thank you.